Witt, and I am the chaplain at Memorial Hospital here in Martinsville and Henry County, and I'm a graduate of Union Theological Seminary with a master's degree in divinity. I also have a certificate in what we call CPE, which is clinical pastoral education. I've been a hospital chaplain for going on about 15 years, in ministry for about 20 years. So as I was sharing with you a while ago, listening is it is a profound skill, and it's something that we take for granted a lot of times, but it's something that it comes natural to us, but sometimes we have to hone in some skills of how to really listen actively. I've given a handout, and we're going to kind of follow that. Active listening, I just think the world of the folks here at Contact because of this type of training. This is some of the best training you actually can receive on how to connect and respond to people in crisis. So we're very fortunate in this community to have these folks here. So active listening. Listening is a universal connector. What do you think I mean by that? A universal connector.
Something that connects all of us.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's the thing that we all do is communicate. And communication involves listening. Active listening builds trust with persons, communities, and organizations. It conveys acceptance and validation. It helps manage conflict and facilitates reconciliation, encourages empathy, and it improves communications. So out of that list here on the front page, what stands out for you?
Building the trust.
Building trust. Yeah, how so? Say a little bit about that.
Because once they have the trust, they open up. And that's my experience. And at being a peer support specialist, it's very important to identify and to get that trust.
Right.
Because after that, then what's really going on comes out.
Right, it does. Very good point. So active listening builds trust. Others, what stands out for you here? You know, for me, helps manage conflict. That's a powerful tool to have to manage conflict, because conflict can be a pretty scary thing for people. We don't always know how to resolve it. And active listening, you're thinking a lot of times talking is the thing that helps resolve conflict, which it does. You've got to listen first before you speak. Okay? Why?
So you can hear completely what they're saying.
Well, it's important to receive, yes, the message.
We won't know what they need.
Right. So we're not assuming what they may need, right? Okay. All right. Anything else that stands out here for y'all? All right. Well, let's turn to the second page. The importance of listening. You know, when communication is going on, a lot of things can happen, you know, in our thoughts. Believe it or not, when you are thinking, would you imagine that you're just having one thought, or are you having a lot of thoughts at a time? Yeah, exactly. I got to say a word communicated to me. Exactly, you're processing several thoughts at one time. And that's pretty amazing what our brain is able to do. It says here, we may get the wrong message if we don't listen with care. What is being said and how it is being said is so important. It's so important. When I teach active listening, I kind of share with people that active listening is listening beneath the surface of the words. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're really doing it all the time. Yeah, you're kind of listening between the surface of what is actually being said. because people are not going to always say exactly what they're thinking and feeling, right? They're kind of alluding to it by their communications, and we're trying to, we call it reading between the lines kind of thing. But you've got to be careful that you think, if you're reading between the lines, you think, oh, I know what they're saying. You may not. You may have some sense of what is being said, okay? And you've got to be real careful with that. You've got to be real careful with that, because that's going to process in your brain what to say next, right? Because one fear that people have is what?
Being rejected.
Well, being rejected. That can go, huh?
Being judged.
Yes, yes.
Misunderstood.
Misunderstood. But the biggest fear is, in any situation, crisis situation, is knowing what to say and what to do, right? That's a scary thing when a crisis happens and you need to respond to it. As a chaplain, hospital chaplain, one of our first things that we learn to do is to present a non-anxious presence. And that's not easy to do when trauma and crisis situations are happening through the ER or whatever, code blues, you name it. People going off on you, non-anxious presence, okay? Now, that just doesn't happen at once. What this is all about is learning and training, practicing your skill, and the more you practice these things, the better you get with it. Now, you may look at me and say, oh my goodness, you can talk in front of crowds and all this. Well, I'm going to tell you, first of all, I'm a very shy person. I am an introvert. An introvert, it doesn't mean, if you're an introvert, it doesn't mean you're shy always times, because you can have a shy extrovert actually. But I'm an introvert, which says one thing, I'm processing things inside. Okay? And I can be around a group of people for a limited amount of time because it takes all my energy to key in what's going on, what's being said. Extroverts, on the other hand, they get energized by being around people and talking with people. And they're processing with their words, okay? So sometimes it's hard to pull me out from here. I'm in here a lot of times. And, I'll be in a store and somebody says, hey, and I didn't see him because I'm still thinking up here somewhere, And that's important to know. That's important to know not only about the caller, you may not pick up on all that, but it's really important to know about yourself, okay? And when you're responding and helping people out. All right. So listening, active listening is listening beneath the surface of the words. So we're all on the same track with that, okay? Okay. So what is being said and how it is being said? Those are two important questions. Let's look at the first one, what is being said? What stands out for you? What do you think I mean by that? It's important to know what's being said, right?
The actual words.
Yeah. It's important to know what is being said and kind of stay on track with that, no matter how your thoughts and feelings may pull you somewhere else. You know what I mean by that? You get distracted. You want to really stay on track what they are actually saying. Okay? The next question, how it is being said, why is that so important?
That can give you a lot of information.
It can, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There could be emotion in the way they say it.
Mm-hmm. Tone of voice. Okay. Now, I'm not saying one is easier than the other, but it is a little bit of a task to be a contact, a crisis line specialist, and you can't see their face or their body, because a lot of times we're picking up and interpreting body language, and you do not have that privilege of seeing that. So you're really paying a lot of attention to tone of voice and the words being said. Okay? Okay. At the bottom of the page, you'll see listening for the message. Now, this is where active listening gets kind of fine-tuned, and I like paradigms. I like short, limited paradigms so I can remember them. Anytime you have communication, you're going to have a receiver, you're going to have a sender and a receiver, okay? And what's tricky about that is that's going to be going both ways at different times in a conversation, right? One moment you're going to be the sender, the next moment you're going to be the receiver, okay? So, when you're looking at what's being said, you're going to have what is called the message, right? Okay. A paradigm that I kind of hold to in all situations is that this message contains two things. Okay? It's going to contain thoughts and it's going to contain feelings or emotions. Okay? So you got a message, it contains what?
It can get feelings and emotions.
Right. Thoughts and feelings. Thoughts and feelings. And they're two different things, and I want you to kind of become very comfortable with that paradigm. Okay? So it has thoughts and it has feelings or emotions. Now, how do you think this is helpful as a paradigm?
Tell you a lot about the person and the situation they're in.
But how does it help you?
To be able to help.
Yes.
To look for both things.
There you go. You're on the right track. But because when a person's sharing a story with it, if they're in crisis, man, it's going to be overwhelming. It's overwhelming for them, and it's going to be overwhelming for you in a certain kind of way at first. So you have all this stuff, like you were saying, like you have all this stuff coming at you. So you want to keep a paradigm to kind of hone in what's being said. So if you're looking for what their thoughts are, and you're looking for what their feelings are, coming from, instead of being overwhelmed by something, you have a paradigm to use. Because every message contains these two things. Okay? All right. Now, Woodrow Wilson had the ear of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. That's a profound statement right there. The ear of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. That means the leader is listening to the voices of the people. The leader is validating the voices of the people. The leader is listening to the voices of the people. Okay? On page 3, it says, listening to the message can reflect upon an individual's meaning, identity, and destiny. Okay. Meaning, identity, and destiny. Here's another paradigm for you. Okay? Why this is important, everybody has this. This is part of their being. Okay? Meaning, ask the question, why? In a crisis situation, what is the question that everybody asks?
Why me?
Why me? Okay. Now, that. Why? Why don't you have an answer? I'm being a little
That's a
sarcastic.
whole lot different than us. I mean,
It is.
we don't know.
It is, exactly.
It just is what it is.
It is. The thing of it is, we don't know the answer, but those folks are hurting so bad. Of course they're going to ask that question. Is it a valid question to ask? Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay to say to them, you know, I don't have the answer to that, but I'm here. I'm present to listen to what you've been through. Right? Okay. So why me? Identity asks the question, who am I? Who am I? You know, it takes a lifetime to answer that question. And we go through stages in life where we might get some kind of information, further information to answer this question, right? But this changes as we change. Okay? Now, it involves the different roles that we have in life. So if you have a mom that has called you up in panic, she's lost her child. That's probably one of the most horrific losses a parent can go through. And a lot of times they only see their role in life as the parent, as the mom, right? And it's hard because they're going to be doing some heavy grieving for a long time to kind of not even, you know, that role has been challenged. It's been challenged, okay? Now, you may have a person who's called up and who is contemplating taking their life, another crisis situation. And a lot of times they may see themselves in a limited role. And I've been there. I understand what that is when life gets so bad and overwhelming that the only choice you think you have is to take your own life. And at that moment, I realized I forgot to assess my roles in life. Okay? I have two parents. I am a sister to a brother. I'm an aunt to a niece. I'm an ordained minister and chaplain to a whole bunch of folks. I am a colleague to many colleagues. I'm a friend to many friends. Those are all roles, right? Yeah. Okay. Destiny asks the question, here I am at this point in time, where do I go from here? Make sense? Okay. Now, you see how these three areas in a person's life gets challenged, changes, and transforms. Okay? And I want to highlight that again because you're going to be listening to a lot of meaning, identity, and destiny from people. Right? And so, Sharon, okay, I've went through the most horrible thing, horrific thing in my life, and they're telling you all these thoughts and feelings, all that's been happening. You may say, where do you think you need to go from this point now? You see what I'm saying? And it might be short term, it might be long term, it might be both. So why, who, and where? So we've got a message, contains two things. What are they?
Thoughts and feelings.
Thoughts and feelings. 3 areas of a person's life. Okay, all right. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, see, that's just the first thing in the list there, and we spent, 15 minutes on that, right? Okay. Listening to the message can share values and. What do you think about that? That's some pretty heavy-duty stuff, isn't it? Cultural values, belief systems. Okay. We got our little stick figure here. So if you take one single person, how many we'll look at cultural values. How many cultural values does one person have? A lot, yeah. We'll put a lot here. All right. How many belief systems does a person have? A lot, right? Now, a lot of times when people hear the word belief system, they're going to religion, right? Well, we have a lot of belief systems, not just our spiritual and our religion side. You know, we grew up as children believing in Santa Claus, didn't we? Till you hear mom and dad get the stuff out, you know. Yeah. So you have all these cultural values and belief systems. You know, and I usually share about myself, not because I think I'm somebody important or anything like that, because I just want to respect other people's situations. But if you look at my cultural values, I'm a daughter of an old moonshiner. Now, in some ways, I find that pretty proud of that. In other ways, it caused a lot of dysfunctionality in our family system. So I have some different cultural values. Both my parents worked in a factory. They did not graduate from high school. So I'm a first-generation graduate, which is very different out of your family system. So there's some cultural values here. You know? My dad was an old country boy, raised on a farm. Well, you know, I grew up eating really good food. You know? And give me your first name again. Terry. Terry. It takes me a while to get people's names. I know faces real good. Terry, I'm going to tell you, I grew up, it was nothing to have fresh sausage, fresh ham, homemade biscuits, gravy, you know, canned food. You know, that was a cultural thing for me. It's hard to find that now, isn't it, Terry? Yeah, there you go. All right. So that's a cultural value, actually, okay? Coming from the country. All right. Belief systems. Well, when a child comes out of the mother's womb, and actually even before that, your trust system is in place. It's created in all of us. And when a baby is born, when the baby is handed to the mother right after birth, and then is taken away to the nursery, that child is waiting to be back in its mother's arms. When the baby is taken home to lay in a crib, the mom, the baby does what she does, puts the baby back down. The baby is waiting for mom to come back. What's that establishing? Trust. Yes, exactly. So it starts from a very early age. And when people are in crisis and they are looking for someone to listen, and it's what you were saying a while ago, is establishing trust. Now, I want you to be careful when you're doing this, that's not your prime, I mean, that it is your prime objective, but I don't want you to get so overwhelmed trying to establish trust. It's like, Terry, I want you to trust me, man, you okay? Because if you say that, they ain't going to trust you, okay? When somebody says, oh, just trust me, you know, it's something that you're going to have to earn, okay? You're just in the conversation. And the skills that you learn here with contact will guide you and navigate you to earn that. Now, so every single human being has a lot of cultural values and a lot of belief systems. You've got to be careful, okay, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, what our cultural values and belief systems are when it doesn't match that other person and what you do with that, okay? So Okay, we'll highlight that up here, okay, and we'll come back to it. Listening to the message can become a gift to share to generation to generation. You know, we learn from our family systems, okay, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit later, but we learn how to listen from, you know, from our grandparents, and they learned from their parents and their grandparents, right? So I had to learn really how to listen because in my family system, you know, my mom always listened to me. So that taught me something about listening. But Dad wasn't the best listener. Okay? And that's just from his generation and his culture. Okay? So there might be some things that we have to, when we're learning these skills, that we have to kind of do an assessment. You know, is this a good, you know, am I good at this? Not so good? You know, fair? So we have to kind of take assessment and don't, you know, and try not to be critical of yourself, but just kind of highlight, well, I might need to learn a little bit more about this, okay? Because you're not only doing it for you, you're doing it for them too, okay? So it discovers purpose. Listening discovers hope and purpose. Who would have thought, right? It connects to resources of faith. Now, one of the hottest topics you can even start to talk about is faith and religion. So you got to be careful of this stuff. Now, we chaplains, we're trained to be interfaith and non-denominational. I have my own faith, you know, what I am, and I seek that outside of what I do as a chaplain. So that means I have to be flexible and open-minded. I'm not here. We're not here to win souls. And I'm not a big fan, say it up front, I'm not a big fan of that winning souls. I am a big fan of caring for souls. You're caring for souls. Now, because if you have to scare somebody into trusting God and believing in God, that's a difficult way to do that. People have got to find their own journey. Okay? People have got to find their own journey in faith. Listening to the message can uncover life themes. Uncover life themes. I'm going to look at those in a minute. It can lead one from brokenness to wholeness. Brokenness to wholeness. It can break the cycle of loneliness. It can guide you towards empathy. And it can help transform relationships. And we're going to look more into that. Now on page 4, you remember on one of the lists I was reading to you, it said that, uh-oh. Yeah. Maybe we can turn, yeah. Sounds good, sounds good. There we go. Now, you know we had the paradigm, the message? Well, I'm going to kind of step back. And I learned this in my chaplaincy training some 20 years ago. That this message, if I look at this as the gift, what happens? We share it more often. We share it a lot. What else? What happens when you receive a gift? Kevin, what happens?
What happens when I receive a gift?
If I give you a gift, what happens?
Feel good.
Yeah. What else happens?
We connect, I think.
Well, we connect, but I mean, just think about the gift. Just think about the
I
gift.
feel wanted. I feel loved. I feel
Okay, but
appreciated.
what do you do with the gift?
Depends on what it is, I guess.
It's a gift you like. Okay. Kevin's making it hard for me here. Yeah, it's a gift. You like it.
Yes.
What does that mean? The reason I'm pushing, thank you, Kevin. The reason I'm pushing you here. What do you do with a gift you like?
I briefly, like I said.
You cherish it.
Oh, cherish, okay.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
That's a specific word, okay.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You're close. You're close. You get the point what I'm saying here? You cherish it. So, if somebody's in crisis, they're calling you up, they're giving you a message, right? And if you see that that is a gift, what do you do, Kevin?
Cherish it.
All right. See? Makes a difference, doesn't it? You know how many times a day, you know how many stories I hear? How many people share their stories with me? Do you know how many times I can get distracted? And how many times I'm worried about something I haven't taken care of? You know what I do to remind myself to pay attention to what somebody's sharing with me? What do I do?
Think of it as a gift.
Yeah. And what do you think happens when I do that?
Keep at it.
Whoosh. Yeah.
Focus.
Yeah, I come right back to it. And it's amazing what happens there. It's amazing how much each day that I wander off and I get back on track, how much that teaches me about humility.
The old adage, learn to listen, listen to learn.
Yeah, exactly. But if I get back onto track that that's a gift that somebody's sharing with me, that becomes a powerful force for me, okay? Powerful energy there. Okay. Catherine Doucette says that every person in this life has something to teach me. And as soon as I accept that, I open myself to truly listening. I've had some really good mentors over the years. I've had a lot of, in the beginning stages of becoming a chaplain, I had a lot of internships, and those were really great. I learned a lot. Then, as I shared with you, I have a certificate in clinical pastoral education. That's a year residency at a large hospital, teaching facility hospital. And that's where I learned this right here. But I also learned from that I got to specialize in a psych hospital my year residency. And I was okay with the open adult unit. There you have people who are struggling with issues, life stressors, substance abuse, dysfunctional families, all that. Man, that's familiar territory to me. Felt right at home. But then you had the closed adult unit, and those were the folks who had the mental illness episodes. They were in their episodes, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorders, dissociative disorders, all these. Well, was I comfortable there? That was pretty scary. That was new territory for me, okay? My mentor asked me, well, how did your day go? I said, well, the open adult unit, pretty familiar, felt good, I said, but the open adult, I'm kind of afraid to go over there. I haven't been over there yet. I had to be honest with him. And he says, well, tell me, what's your fear? Now, he didn't jump in there to rescue me, did he? He listened to me to hear what my fears were. He probably knew what my fears were, but he wanted to listen to make sure what they were. I said, well, I'm just uncomfortable. I don't know enough about mental illness to be with these folks. He said, well, let me share something with you. He says, I came into this world with a mom who's schizophrenic. And she's been in and out of the mental hospitals most of my life. And he says, you thought that I could have been very familiar in this territory. But he said, I had my mentor teach me. He said to me, let them be your teacher. Let them be your teacher. That patient who is suffering from schizophrenia teach you about schizophrenia. Let that patient who has a dissociative disorder, which is multiple personality, teach you about dissociative disorder. See, that's what listening can do. And I was still a little nervous, but I was pretty okay after that. And I learned a lot of things from these folks. I learned that their meaning, in life, purpose in life, was pretty profound. I learned they didn't always ask the question why like we do. I learned that their identity was not, that they were not solely defined by their mental illness. That they were very multifaceted human beings. So you see what listening can do for you? So it is a gift, isn't it? Okay. The message is very profound. Now I want to kind of go a little bit more extensive in this. This is supposed to be the brain. And as I share with people, this is probably the most profound organ in your body, is your brain. Controls where we're thinking, and it's where our emotions are produced, the brain. So, we've talked about that it has thoughts and feelings. Let's look at feelings for a minute, because they are a little bit easier to name. And I say that intentionally, that they are a little bit easier to name, because when people are in crisis, they are so overwhelmed, because this area right here, if you're looking sideways to the brain, you have a frontal lobe on the left side and you have a frontal lobe on the right side. Your frontal lobe is right here, right and left lobe. The frontal lobe, when a crisis happens, it kind of goes mush. Can't think straight. It's like if you're in a car accident and a police officer comes and says, well, man, what happened? You know, that's what happens. You can't really think straight. So you've got to remember some of the physiological things that happen in crisis to the brain. So a person in crisis may be calling you and in panic and really can't name things or tell you exactly what's happening, so you got to give them time, okay? And a lot of times they're going to tell you how they're feeling, but they can't actually name the emotion, right? So you may need to do that for them, but give them time. Just don't jump in there and give them time. So if I asked you to name some feelings, what would you name? Anger. Yeah. Sadness, happiness. Kevin? Resentment. Okay. Hurt. Pain. Okay. Shame. That's a biggie. Confusion. Is that what? Okay, gotcha. Very good. They're going to be very confused, aren't they? Okay. Guilt. Yeah, a lot of times these two go hand in hand. Yeah. Okay. What else? I'm going to kind of push you on this. We might spend a little time on this because it's important to know your emotions. Okay? How to name them. Alone and loneliness. Betrayal. Gosh, that's a big one too, Terry. That's an awful feeling, isn't it? Yeah. What else? A person's usually overwhelmed when something happens, like, overwhelmed. What else? Huh?
I was going to say like neglected.
Yeah, you can feel neglected. Okay. If you're in a situation, and most of the time we are human beings who want to be in control, and if we're not in control, what do we feel? Well, that's one. I'm going to put that up there, Kevin. That's a good one. But it starts with an H, but it's something else.
That's why she got all excited when you said,
Helpless, right? Helpless. I do not like to feel helpless. But life... Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. Powerless, helpless. Okay. What else?
There's a lot more for being upset than there is for being.
It seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah. Delightful, joy, happiness, and it's like, I don't know what else. Yeah. You think that's all? It probably isn't. Pretty sure it isn't. We'll stop for there, but the point is I want you to really be able to focus on what you're hearing as to their emotions, okay? Because you may say something like, my goodness, Terry, you've been through a lot. You have been through a lot. That sounds pretty overwhelming. And Terry may say, yeah, it's been a lot I've been going through. I'm drained. See what I'm saying? You're sad. Yeah, I just lost my job today. I don't know what to do now. So that's how knowing these, how being able to name it, skills. Okay? That makes sense? Okay. This is usually easier to list than the thoughts, and that's okay. But I want to stress the point to listen for the thoughts, because that's going to be the message in the story. And it's going to be things like, I'm not sure I just want to, I just want to keep existing. That's going to trigger you to be looking out for suicidal ideations, and you'll be trained in that, okay? Or, I just can't believe my wife, she just left me, and I don't know. There's a thought, right? So you're listening for those thoughts, because those thoughts are going to contain some powerful images and powerful dynamics in those thoughts. And that's going to navigate you to listen a little bit more, okay? A little bit more intentionally.
Like I can never measure up, something like that.
Yeah. So you're going to...
Expectations of others.
Yes.
Our thoughts.
Yeah. Yes.
Many times our expectations, whether they're parents or husbands, wives, children,
Exactly.
I never seem to measure up to the expectations of others. And those thoughts of
Yes.
uselessness and
Yes. There you go. The thing of it is, expectations, that's a killer to any relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Any type of relationship expectations is a killer.
yeah.
That's going to destroy a relationship just like that. Okay?
Done it.
Yeah. Wow.
I think you can destroy
We're gonna get-
relationship with yourself.
Yeah, oh yeah. Expectations on yourself.
Realistic expectations of others as well as expectations that others put on us.
Right. Wow, that one word, Kevin. Look at the generation of energy about it. See? See what I'm saying? It's real stuff, man. Real stuff. Okay. All right. You're doing great. Moment, because I always do this, because stuff, it might conjure up some thoughts and feelings and memories and stuff like that. Is everybody okay? I always check in. Everybody's okay? Okay. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah. Cameraman doing okay? All right. See, we chaplains don't miss a thing. That's right. I got the antenna out, man. All right. I'm going to probably mess up this name, and I even took French in high school, 4 years of it. But anyway, this is Francois La Rochefoucauld. He states, "The reason why so few people are agreeable in conversation is that each is thinking more about what he intends to say than about what others are saying, and we never listen when we are eager to speak." Kevin's being confessional over here. Anybody else? I take confessions today. Yeah.
It's hard not to, it's just an active listening. What's great for me here is that being able to not thinking of a response to an idea that you might have, and I'm doing it briefly after you share, is what I'm going to share next.
Do you think we all do that?
Some more than others, I think.
Very good point.
I think this is important to learn to be able to do that too, so I don't jump too quickly
Right.
on that.
Well,
It's not about me, in other words.
exactly. Powerful lesson, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Kevin has just important. Shared with you, I'm an introvert, so I'm going to be listening more. Extroverts, remember I said they processed with their words? So I'm not sure as an extrovert. See?
Love to speak.
Yeah, see? And Kevin, where there are learning curves for me as an introvert, Kevin's got learning curves for him as an extrovert. Okay? Yeah, man, I'm telling you, even as an introvert. Because when I was young, as a chaplain, a little chaplain person, I would say, what am I going to say or do? Because I'm shy. And I felt the pressure, the expectation on myself to be able to speak. Okay, you understand where I'm going with this? So probably my fear, my anxiousness got in the way, and so here comes this person who's an introvert and shy, all of a sudden talking with a patient in a hospital, and you can't shut me up. Because it was driven by what? My fear. All right? So you can see how that can flip there. Talk, fill the space up. Silence. And we're going to look at that. Marge, remind me to talk about silence in a minute if I forget. So, there are certain dynamics that you know about, but you've got to be careful because some of that can flip on you, and you got to learn about what that's all about. Okay? So, I had to learn to deal with my fear and my anxiousness and get back to being an introvert and just listen, you know? So, what makes you a good listener? What makes you a good
Focus, attention?
Yeah,
Focused attention.
yeah. Thought Terry was going to give me an answer there. Yeah, focus, listen, yeah, attention. What else? What about compassion? Empathy.
Empathy, sympathy.
Yeah, that helps out, being a good listener.
A true concern.
True
Honest
concern.
concern.
Yeah. Sometimes what they're sharing with you is some pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? It just kind of grabs you. Okay? Use that. Okay. Well, here's the flip side of that question. What inhibits you as a good listener? Your telephone? Say more.
Yeah, when I just got a really bad habit about picking up episodes where I work at the center, and we could get a call for a crisis. I'm just so used to letting everybody know where I'm at, and that it's rude. I shouldn't be in class texting, but I'm like, I'm just around the corner if you need me, and my telephone, it's just distracting.
We have so many thoughts.
Yeah.
You got so many thoughts going on in your brain.
I think-
If you're a busy person and you've got so many people that you're trying to do for, you need to get your people at home.
You're multitasking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's constantly going on there. Or just something that somebody can say can trigger. Oh my gosh, I forgot. Blah blah blah, and it just gets you on a whole different trail. And there, that person is still talking, and you're at home remembering to.
It's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like driving down, He was a runner. I love to drive. you know, and I'm just driving away.
Daily lives and what it consists of in society today makes it very difficult for any of us to focus on other people, because we're, like I said, there's so much we're inundated with on a daily basis.
You've got so many people to deal with. You've got so
You've
many
got
people.
bills,
You've got to.
this, the
It's a
money,
lot.
the gas, the car, the children, where they're at. And, you know, we're a society of rushing around. That's why I try to
So,
everything level.
so, when I'm driving down the road, I've gone probably a mile thinking about something, right? And you don't even remember driving that whole area there, right? So tell me what's going on there.
Obsessive thought,
Okay,
like detaching,
right.
like detaching from reality. Not so much detaching from reality, it's the only way I know how to say it. It's just you've like left Earth for a moment because you're behind the wheel.
It's a pretty powerful phenomenon,
Yeah, and
isn't
it's
it?
scary.
Yes, it is.
It's scary.
But that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Distracted with all the multitask that you have to do in a day's time.
Go on a mental road trip.
Exactly.
ADHD. I'm an ADHD, and I when I went to college, I began reading. I can read pages, multiple pages, and I read every single word, but none of it went up there. So
And on Sunday mornings, I
it's a
go to
practice.
work. I drive straight to work on some Sunday morning to the church.
Right.
I mean, I'll catch myself in the parking lot. And what was that?
You're getting close to the point I'm trying to bring out. Exactly.
Habits, rituals.
And we can break habits, right? We have to put it in practice. And you can't put a high expectation on yourself to do it. But it's like, remember I said the gift? Remember? You know, it used to take me a while. I'd be off, you know, zoned out. Somebody's just talking away to me. I don't know, your eyes are just glossed over and you're still looking at them and you're going like this, but man, you are zoned out somewhere, right? Okay. So see, I've practiced many times. I have to bring myself to know how important the message is. But that's exactly the word I was trying to, yeah. It's a habit. It's a powerful phenomenon, but it's a habit. And you can break that habit, okay? And bring yourself back, right? That means you've got some control back into your life in that. All right, can you an opinion?
My tongue hurts a lot after I do a long shift. I keep biting it.
Got a confession over here? Anybody else? Okay, all right. It is, it's hard, right? It's hard to you know, not share your opinion about things. But where can the road go the wrong way when you start giving your opinions? Yeah. What do you think happens? You start to become judgmental. Yep. That trust we were talking about, ooh, boy, that's out the window. That is out the window.
Because they might not agree with the opinions that you're giving.
Pretty much.
Shut down the communication right
Yeah. But what happens exactly? Shuts down communication just like that. So tell me, what happens? What happens when you offer your opinion and shuts down communication? It destroys trust. What's the real reason we give our opinions? What's the real reason?
Ego.
Pretty much. Ego. Now, I don't want to sound brutal, but it is our ego. Do we all have that? Yes. We all struggle with it. It's a part of being a human being. So I don't want you to beat yourself up, okay? Yeah, it is. We give our opinions because we think we know better.
That old problem is just get over it and move on.
Yep.
Absolutely the wrong thing to say.
Absolutely the wrong thing to say. Exactly.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. That's, you know, we're trying to prove something, and our ego is about our, I can't spell. our self-esteem. Okay, and we're going to come back to this. Let me get to the question. Can you listen without offering advice? They're two different things.
Say that again.
It's hard, isn't it? It's very difficult. Why is that, Kevin?
Because, I don't know, in a lot of these situations I'm sure I'm going to be dealing with, especially with drug addicts and everything else, I've been there, I've done that, and I want to help by giving what I used in order to get out of the circumstance that they may be into. So I'm more inclined to try to help them.
So,
I did this, and this to get out of this.
So Kevin is trying to,
Fix it.
right, yeah.
And we're in recovery, we're trained up by the big book to identify. You know, speaker meetings are our first 90 and 90, you know, it's so important to identify in recovery so that they can hear something that builds the trust, that brings them in, that plants the seed of recovery and stuff. And then I went into this job over here as a center support leader as a PSS, and it went against the grain of everything I ever learned in recovery. That's what I'm dealing with here.
Beautiful, beautiful.
This is great.
The setting,
I'm the same. I come from the same background. I've been in AA since 1989.
Right.
So.
but that works for AA, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It works for it. So you want to assess your settings where it's appropriate to use and where it's not appropriate to use, right? Say more, Kevin, what you were going to say.
No, it's just, you know, I have also the ministry background, you know what I'm saying? I was fortunate enough to go into a treatment center there and learn the biblical side and the higher power side.
Yeah. AA is very spiritual.
But, you know, I came to a point where I do this every day. It's about the straight and narrow in my life.
Right, right,
Kind of like,
right. I understand.
this world's easy to get in trouble. It's very easy to get in trouble. I've learned to live a life very structured and very, what you would call, focused.
Right.
But I always felt that kind of life without drugs and alcohol and stuff, my life would be boring. The strange part about it is that the more narrow I got, the more focused I got, and the less I let bad things into my life, the freer I became and the more fun I had, which was kind of opposite of what I first believed.
Right, right. So see how belief systems change and transform? Yeah.
Over time.
My supervisor in CPE, just the most profound human being I've ever met, and probably has taught me the most about life. And he was the one who came from the mom who was schizophrenic. He was also a recovering alcoholic. Had all his degrees. He was an ACPE supervisor, which that's the ultimate level that you get in Association Clinical Pastoral Education. They are our teachers. And he has struggled with recovering every day. And exactly what you just said is exactly what he struggles with every day of his life. As an adult child of an alcoholic, rageaholic, and a workaholic, which I am, I'm an adult child of that. So I struggle every day of my life with self-esteem issues, everything. What he taught me is that you just got to take it one day at a time, right?
I think, yeah, and I think there's models. One of the models I was just actually listening to you and kind of thinking at the same time was monks. You sit down with a monk, or you look at monks, you might see them on TV, their society, the way they live, they seem so free, so restricted, right? They live in tremendously restricted lives. You know, they do the same thing every day, but they seem to be some of the most free people in the world. Spiritually free. And you would not think that. Your first thought would be that they would be cornered in.
Right, right. But yes, it's contradictory in some terms. It's almost paradoxical in some terms. But the thing of it is, when we're helping people, what I'm sensing, yes, because of our own issues, we have to stay structured or whatever we have to do. But at the same time, we have to be present with people who are not structured and navigate them in a way that you don't give advice and you don't share your opinions. Because you know what I learned? That I had to find my way, my way. My way may not be somebody else's way. And I've got to let go of controlling or fixing somebody's way, but I can, you know something? I can walk with them on their way. Right? I can walk with them on their way. That's the difference.
A lot of phone calls, people will come up with their own plan. But they know what they have to do. Most of us in our brain somewhere, we've hidden it, we've tried to bury it,
Exactly.
tried to get rid of it.
Exactly.
But we know what we need to do, and most of them do know what they need to do. And if you let them talk long enough, they come to it.
What?
They think they want valid. What they're thinking is.
Marge, do you want to respond to this?
Yeah, a lot of times that's what I feel like. They want me to hear what they're saying and say, that's what I want to handle it.
Yeah. One way to do that too is like, you know, I understand, you know, we're talking together here, and I know it's normal to have these kind of questions, but I'm really here to help you. You see how you take the words? You know, you want to be careful not to chastise them. You know, you want to kind of take your words, gently and gingerly guide the words. You know, to make them feel, you know, like you're not chastising them. That's important.
Sometimes it's hard.
It is. Marge is exactly right. But this is what practicing does, okay? So don't shy away from these kind of issues here,
If I got
okay?
a little old lady who's just lost her husband and she asks me if I'm married, I might give her the answer. It just really depends.
Yeah,
And
you have to,
talk about loss in life, and
exactly,
so
exactly.
I guess if the conversation would be with someone of the opposite sex, and the conversation has gone for a long time, rather could be some other.
I probably wouldn't go there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So both ways.
And what Kevin is bringing up, the clinical term for that is transference, counter-transference. When you get a chance, Google it. But the basic definition comes from the standpoint of doctor-client relationship. The client, because the doctor knows a lot and is helping, the client will transfer onto the doctor some, you know, kind of love, emotion, connection or something. And that happens. It's normal. We all go through it. We all go through it. Then all of a sudden, if the countertransference happens, to buy into it, he thinks he's fixing her. Yeah, he's got a degree, but can he do the transference, countertransference? Yeah, we all do it. We're human beings. We're flawed. It happens. But you want to make sure it doesn't, okay? So, if you get a chance. But that's what you're talking about. That's exactly.
So when we're on the hotline, we basically stay away from getting advice.
Yes, exactly. And you'll thank Chaplain Witt one day. Trust me, you'll thank me one day. Because I was like y'all. I was like, 20 years ago, it's like, oh, but I know this, and I've been through this. I can help them. Oh, Lord, man. Like I said, it can raise up and haunt you like you've never been haunted before. So don't share your opinions and don't give advice. Just remember Chaplain Witt telling you that, okay? And too, Terry, it's a good question, because Terry, that's a good question, man. I mean, honest, true question. The thing of it is, you want to take what your opinions are and your advice, because it's coming from your journey of life, because you've found out some things from some areas that you've been in, okay? And you've got that information, but you got to use it in a way that doesn't come out as an opinion or advice. And I'm going to teach you that in a minute, okay? How are we on time? I know it's like...
it's 8:30.
Oh, okay. Barriers and obstacles. You'll see on the bottom of page 5. When listening begins to break down, so you need to, you all sense this. When you're in conversation with your friends, family, or something, and the conversation's going real good, you feel it. You just it's kind of going good, and all of a sudden, like, what happened here? What happened? Pay attention to that. If you're talking to somebody on the phone, and all of a sudden the conversation's going real good, and all of a sudden it's like, kind of remember what you just said, and see if there's a barrier there, okay? awareness, gender, family systems, point of view, cultural intolerance. And we're going to kind of look more at that in a minute. If you go to the next page, information. Important decisions are being made based upon the accuracy of information we hear. I'm giving you that as something to be aware of, that we are in the informational age. Man, I mean, all you do is pick up a BlackBerry, you know, you're connected to the world. We're inundated with information, okay? But as crisis line specialists, you want to listen for the information, gathering information from the message and processing the information from the message to guide you how to assist or help this person. Now, as a human being, a unique individual, that person carries with them a lot of information, okay? Now, let me get a page here. Now, you know, we were talking about the person, cultural values, belief systems, and all that. Well, something else that an individual carries with them is usually a mirror reflection. Let's see, of their family system. Okay? I'm a walking family system here, okay? I'm a walking family system. I exaggerate things for you to kind of bring home the emphasis, okay? I'm a walking family system. Kevin, you're a walking family system. Terry, you're a walking family system. Leah. I'm sorry, Leah.
Okay.
It's a beautiful name, it really is. Leah, you're a walking family system. Annadale, right? Avenel. Avenel is a walking family system. Sandy, Marge, walking family system. Walking family system. Okay. I'm driving home the point here. Okay? What does that mean?
We do what we know.
Huh?
We do what we know. We do what we've done, what we've seen,
Exactly.
what's been around us, what our external circumstances. Amen, bro.
I love it. What we have been conditioned to, right? Now we all carry that has some positive things, and it has some not so positive things, right? And let me just throw out a little quick lesson here, educational moment. I learned very early on, I stay away from good and bad terminology. I don't use good or bad because it can be shaming. It can be very shaming. And we say it all the time. Oh, this is a good idea, or this, you know. I try to stay away from those things because good and bad equates a lot of times shame to people, or it will stir up shameful memories in people. Well, let's say, Terry, can I use you for a minute? Okay. Terry, man, and Terry, by the way, I love your shoes, but I'm going to use them as an example because Kevin's pushing me here. Terry, man, those shoes, I'm not sure they're really that good for you, you know. I don't know if it might be bad for you. Now, Terry, how do you feel?
I guess you think about maybe you need to change my shoes or something.
Right, but it kind of gets to you, don't it? It kind of makes you degrade. It feels degrading. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Simple little example. So I don't use the word good or bad. Now it might slip out sometimes, but you'll see me correct. Yeah, yeah.
So you say, Terry, those shoes are really different.
There you go. It sounds a little bit easier to receive, right? Yeah, you know, but Terry, I'm sure Terry knows that there's some BS going on there, right? Right, Terry? Okay. And by the way, when you're working with people who are hurt and broken and been that way a long time, don't BS them. because they pick right up on it. They pick right up on it. It's quick.
Better just to say, I really don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know, or hey, my apologies. You know, I just said something that I wished I hadn't said, and it came from a deep, broken part of me. Now, somebody's going to receive that better than you trying to cover it up. Okay? Just be honest with them. So, back on track, family systems. Yeah, you're conditioned to it. So, if a person calls you up and they're grieving, they've experienced some kind of loss, and there are all kinds of losses, not just through death. Loss of job, loss of a relationship, loss of so many things, okay? So when people grieve, it's usually a mirrored reflection of their family system. It's how their family grieved, right? Now this is family system. You look up Mary Bowen. He's the guru and came up with the concept of family systems. It's very powerful stuff. But that's what when you're talking with somebody and they're sharing their story with you, they're sharing how they respond. They're sharing a mirror reflection of their family system. How I grieve is how my family system grieves. And it could be conflicted. Usually is, okay? How a person deals with relationships usually is a mirror reflection of their family system. Now you'll ask me, well, why are you bringing this up in active listening? Because this is what you're going to be listening to. That's exactly what you're going to be listening to. What does knowing that information, and you don't even have to look up Mary Bowen, you don't even have to know all the dynamics of family systems, but what have I just presented to you?
They're doing the best they can with what they have.
Beautiful. So don't be judgmental. Thank you, Liam. Beautiful. That's it. We all carry it with us. And a lot of times it haunts us. So that's what you're listening to. The next page, I'm just going to leave this for you I'm going to just highlight a couple of little things. You'll see at the bottom transference, countertransference, and we covered that. And if you want to read a little bit more on it, just look it up just Google, Yahoo, whatever you want to. But in family systems, usually you got the family, and usually they will point out the person in the family system to be the identified patient. That's just a clinical term. Usually that's the scapegoat of the family. Usually that's the person that becomes a caregiver. Usually that's a person that becomes a chaplain. That's usually a person that becomes a crisis line specialist. It's usually a person that becomes a nurse. Going with this? Yeah. And usually that person carries inside themselves a wounded inner child. Is that going to be coming out in some way, shape, or form when you're listening?
Sure.
Do you know what a person coming from a dysfunctional family system who is carrying a wounded inner child inside, do you know what they're trying to do?
Fix your child too.
They're trying to rescue that inner child. Make sense? So, are you going to be listening to that stuff? Yes. Another paradigm. The journey from brokenness to wholeness. We're all on that journey, right? We all come in with different wounds, don't we? Okay? At my time and age and point in life right now, I am further along the journey. Do I have a ways to go? Yeah. Are we all on the same place in the journey? No. Is that to be respected?
Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Paradigm. The journey from brokenness to wholeness. You can read a little bit on projection. It's just some clinical terms, but don't worry about the clinical terms. I just want you to know what it means so that you may be experiencing it in your conversation and listening with people. Projection can happen, let's say, since I'm an adult child of an alcoholic, let's say an alcoholic calls me up. Now, in real life, do I have any deep sensitivities to alcoholics? No, I actually have a lot of compassion. But some people who may be an adult child of an alcoholic and an alcoholic calls up, they may have some sensitivity to it, and so they may project their dislike and fear towards the alcoholic, project their family system, which they came from, yeah, and it gets projected to the caller. So you want to be careful when you sense something inside that, you know, your particular caller keeps sharing something with you, and you're feeling, you know, that fight or flight thing. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that, because that's telling you something.
Even though you're not trying to be, you might project disdain for whatever you're doing.
Right. And you know, it's not that you're going to be judgmental or something, but you may shut down some communication. You may break that listening flow that you had. You see what I'm saying? Watch those things. Be alert to them. The do's and do nots, well, these are the do nots of active listening. Let me read what Larry Barker said, because I like this. He says, effective listeners remember that words have no meaning, people have meaning. The assignment of meaning to a term is an internal process. Meaning comes from inside us. And although our experiences, knowledge, and attitudes differ, we often misinterpret each other's messages while under the illusion that a common understanding has been achieved. A lot of words, but powerful message there. Do nots of active listening. Don't be critical in your listening. Don't BS your responses. Don't talk about yourself. Don't tap your fingers or look at your watch. And that's like if you're in front of somebody. Don't ask a lot of questions, because the person may feel like you're being interrogated. Don't have a condescending body language. Well, you know, they won't see your body anyway. Okay. What time is it? Okay. Just a few more pages here. Anger and grief. All right. I've got here anger equals grief. Why do I have that? It is, isn't it?
And it's the hardest part.
Right, it is the hardest part. It's hard to be around people who are angry. Okay? Now, I had a chaplain volunteer, and I train them before I let them go and do, you know, solo. And I had a chaplain volunteer, profound question she asked me. Code blue goes off, and we go to it. We respond. And security shows up. She says, Chaplain Witt, why did security show up to a code blue? I said, that's a very good question. I said, let's look, see how I'm responding. I'm not fixing it, just empowering her. I said, let's look at that. Let's look at grief. Let's look at the stages. What are the stages of grief? You know, because I taught her. And she started listing, you know, shock, denial, anger. She goes, oh, anger. I said, yeah. So, anger equals grief. So anytime I'm encountering someone who is angry, instead of saying they're angry, which they are, I'm saying they're grieving. Now, if I say that, what happens? No, I mean, I say it to myself. Okay. Yeah. It makes it a little bit easier for me to be with them.
Yeah.
See,
it breeds understanding in yourself.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I can be around them a little bit better. It's not easy being around people who are angry.
Identify with people. That's what I try to do today is identify.
Right.
Find a circumstance with someone sharing with me that I have gone through myself or relate in some instance, and it helps me to have a caring attitude. Exactly.
There you go. See? Empathy. These are the stages. You can go over those. We're now entering the phase where we're going to look at some statements. Because when you're talking with people and you're responding to them, you're either going to ask a question, but you don't want to ask a lot of questions, but mostly you want to make statements. And it's those profound statements that you can make that can just open the door to other information. Okay?
Relate to them? Mm-hmm. Is that relating?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But here it becomes active listening always is going to involve some communication skills. It's part of active listening, and so these are it. And you have in your book a whole bunch more, okay? So I want you to study what's in the manual too. But these are some common things. You're going to look at the statements, the reflecting statements, meaning Information has been given to you, the gift has been given to you, part of the gift has been given to you, there's thoughts and feelings in it. You may have a moment to reflect, and you may say to them, well, you know, Marge, that sounds like, because you're reflecting, you understand? So it sounds like. Paraphrasing means that the caller has given you a whole bunch of information, and because you want to make sure you understand what they're saying, not what you assume they're saying, you may say something like, in other words, blah, 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 whatever they have shared with you. You just use these opening words here. Or what I hear, and that's what I usually do, is say, what I think I hear you saying. You know, and I may be totally off in it, and I hope they correct me, because that means that's not on base, so they need to let me know. Summarizing statements, if I understood you correctly, and then you just kind of summarize what they say. Clarifying is what I think I hear you saying is. So you're going to reflect, you're going to paraphrase, you're going to summarize, and you're going to clarify. And the thing of it is there any order that you do that? No. It's all in what they share with you. Now, when it comes to questions, you've got a closed-ended question. And that's like, Terry, can I use you for a minute here? Terry, are you happy?
Yes.
Closed-ended. See, one, right? One, closed-ended. You want to stay away from those, okay? You want to keep in mind how to ask an open-ended question. Terry, I'll use you again here. Okay. Open-ended question is asking a question where you're going to get a lot more information, hopefully, okay? Let's say Terry has had a conflictual encounter with a friend. And that's always uncomfortable. And Terry may say, hey, man, Bonnie, I just, And Chaplain Witt's going to say, what was that like for you?
It was pretty bad,
Yeah, exactly. See? Because I care. I want to hear. I can probably conjure up some image or something what it might have been, but it doesn't. That's about me. That's not about Terry. So I'm going to ask Terry, what's that like for you? So Terry's going to teach me. Okay? Any questions on that?
We will use a role play too through the training that'll give you
Right,
a chance to
right.
practice it.
And I'm going to do something here real quick with a volunteer. But I want to just kind of bring a minute. And before, Marge, you forgot to remind me about silence. It's all right, I'm just kidding. All right. A lot of times, when we're in a conversation with somebody and they're thinking, and all of a sudden you have this kind of long pause, what do we usually do? We start chatting, fill that space. That's what Marge was talking about in the beginning. That's our nerves, our anxiousness, our fear. Sometimes silence is your friend. So let it happen. Okay? Let it happen. Because you got to give that person time to think. You got to give yourself time to think.
Be brave enough to say what they're going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've had the experience when I've managed to let a silence lapse. Sometimes it goes just a little long, and the person will say, "Are you there?" Oops, a little too long silence, and then I'll respond back, "Yeah, I'm listening."
Yeah, and say thank you. Thank you for, clarifying that, And it's okay to say, after a little pause there, you may want to say, some silence here. And I said, that's a good thing. I said, what are some of your thoughts right now? What are some of your thoughts right now? Okay? All right. Cahill Gibran says, many of us spend our whole lives running from feelings with the mistaken belief that you cannot bear the pain. But you have already. What you have not done is feel all you are beyond that pain. Yeah. It is, isn't it? navigating people towards this direction is our goal. And they may not be there on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth call. But every little step you can empower them and guide them is a powerful thing. Because I look back in my life and I remember the people who made that possible for me. And they are etched in your heart and soul and spirit, and you don't ever forget them. Any questions? Let me get one volunteer, and I'm not so much going to do the role play as I'm just going to ask a volunteer to share something if you feel comfortable sharing, and I'm going to listen. Okay? Come on, Kevin.
Stand up.
You just, I tell you what we'll do, I'll just pull this chair.
Never guess. We would never.
You just turn your chair around.
No,
Did she label you?
You know what? I'm going to actually take advantage of the services here, and because I'm going through something.
Okay.
I was engaged recently, and the girl that I was engaged to has a family structure that is dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried to help with the dysfunction by getting hands-on with everybody and giving advice and things, but this advice and this family structure has been so rooted that me coming in and trying to help the situation isn't really helping.
Right.
Because people I ultimately know need to help themselves. You know, what I'm going through right now is my ex-fiance now. I'm trying to help and trying to do more active listening, but see, I can't change anybody. I'm too close to the situation to be able to help change her. I feel a sense of frustration in the fact that where I had to come from as a recovering alcoholic and addict, and stop denying, stop justifying, stop rationalizing. In other words, get honest with myself, identify who I am, what I've been, in order to shed it. You know what I'm saying? And what I'm finding with her is that she just cannot be honest about anything. She doesn't say anything, well, this is the way, you know. I'll share something about myself, revealing about myself.
Right.
And being honest, like, we'll just give an example, like with intimacy or something. Well, I need to do more to be more intimate with you, and this is this and this.
Right.
And then she goes, yeah, you do, you know, that. But in other words, she's not responding with anything that she needs to do. It's always her putting it on me.
Right.
It's never her fault. It's always the past. Well, this is what happened to me, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
It's not what am I going to do about the situation. It's not being honest. It's denying. She's putting it on other people, blame,
Right.
which I did a lot of. So I see a lot of those things, and I don't know where to go with it.
It sounds like there is a lot of thinking and feeling with this situation. So first I'd like to maybe explore, what are you feeling right now from all that?
I'm feeling wore down.
Yeah. It can be very draining to try to fix all the situation. And you're right, you can be very drained from that. So how are you coping and dealing with this situation?
I think 1 James chapter 1 talks about it very clearly. Count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptation. For the testing of your faith will produce patience, and let patience have its perfect work. So I think in the term for me, it's with anybody I'm dealing with is patience.
Right.
Patience is a difficult thing. Don't ever pray for it. I'm going to tell you, don't pray for it, because you'll have a hard time with it. But just being patient with other people, not rushing into anything. In other words, be quick. What is it? This the term? Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and whatever. I forget. Slow to anger, kind of thing. I think that's, what is the term? Anybody know what that is? Do you know what quick to listen.
Slow, yeah, slow to anger. I think, yeah.
Slow to anger, whatever.
Yeah,
There's
it's
three
okay.
different things,
It's
but
okay.
primarily that's the kind of message I'm taking. I'm basically at this point, I'm going to just allow the process to take place.
Yeah.
Allow everything. I'm not trying to fix the situation. I've done so much that when I do something and then it doesn't go, like I'll help the son with his truck and clean his truck out and get it all clean and wax it for him, show him how to take care of a vehicle, and then, not even a month later, it's worse than it was when I fixed it. So, and the same thing's holding true for the house and everything else. So I'm dealing with a situation that is dysfunction that, I might be able to fix it temporarily. But in the long run, it's up to the individual to care enough about his situation, whether it be his room and his truck and everything else.
Yeah.
And it's draining on the mother as well.
Right. I hear that you've bonded with your fiance and her son and the family. It sounds like this is a major loss. And how have you grieved?
It is, I guess one place, I'll go there. I would like to go there but
You don't have to.
just be honest, God brings people in my life, and God takes me out of people in my life. I believe that it's all an experience.
Life is an experience, that's true, but God also says that blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Mm-hmm.
And so how have you have you given yourself permission to grieve?
Yeah, there was a moment, of grieving. Absolutely, I felt bad about the situation. I still do.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of trying,
It
but
kind of sounds like you're still trying to fix it.
yes and no. I'm more letting, like I guess I told my mom today, I'm just letting it take its course. Okay. And if it's to go the way it's going. Mm-hmm. In other words, I don't have any expectations of things changing right now.
Okay.
And with that expectation, it's a little bit comforting because I know where it's going to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it also sounds like you're guarding yourself too.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Because I know how hard it is to change.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like there's a lot going on, a lot of thoughts and feelings again, and I'm wondering, would you be open to resources that could help you deal with them? Okay.
Yes.
So this is when, prime example, to give the resources. There's a lot more could be said, but I know we're on time. Mm-hmm. But for Kevin, thank you. That was a very hurtful and painful thing that you just shared. Mm-hmm. And thank you for your courage to do that. That's not easy. So let's just open. Are you okay with this? Okay. Just to open up for questions, not for Kevin, but about the conversation and our observations that you had about.
What I heard is that Kevin already has some thoughts and some plans on how he's going to handle this, and he needed somebody to talk to validate it. Mm-hmm. That's what I heard.
Very good. And we would have went more there, but I'm just thinking of this time thing, and it's like, yes, but Marge, very on top of it. Very good.
How long does a conversation like that usually go?
It can go, sometimes some conversations go hour, 2 hours, it just depends. That's a good question, Terry.
On our helpline, we try to limit the calls to 20 minutes with the promise that the person need to talk some more because we need to free the line in case someone else is trying to call, as long as it's not a crisis.
Exactly.
If it's stable and it's okay to get off the line, then we ask them to, give us 5-10 minutes. If they want to call back, that's fine.
But now if it's a really serious conversation and you feel that you just keep talking.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Just your listening can, and if it's really heated, or, you really feel this person could could go in a bad direction, you keep them on the phone.
Right, exactly. Good question. What did you observe? Did Kevin feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, he was comfortable. He was very comfortable sharing. It was an honor for him to share it. To share something that close to his heart. It was it's an honor to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I feel like, no, what I hear him saying is that he's taken steps to take a step back, but there's still that lurking notion, that reservation, and it could be due to lots of things, a lot of feelings we discussed tonight. So,
And we got to, and Leah, you're right on target, but we got to be careful, because I'm at the same time I'm listening to everything, and I need to ask Kevin, did you feel like you were heard to a certain point?
Well, yeah.
To a certain point, okay. And we've got to be careful, because we're sensing and picking up on these things, but we've got to be careful, and we've got to sense at the same time, is this person ready to disclose some of that? You know, that's another thing we have to be careful of. And because we may see it, but we don't want to push it. So I was very gentle, gingerly approaching the issues, because I really didn't, in a limited amount of time, I did not know where Kevin was with this and disclosing this. So that's why I didn't really go in depth with a lot of things. So, Leah, you're exactly right. I mean, we're always picking up, our antennas out there, picking up these things, but we've got to be careful. You know, we've got to look at our egos again and say, okay, yeah, I think I've named this. But I just keep that. What I do is I've learned to keep that in there and just kind of use it as my guide and kind of just gently the conversation. Because people, we don't know where they've been. We're just getting a little bit, we're just getting bits and pieces of the conversation. So we've just got to kind of gingerly approach it when we really sense there's something major going on, and kind of just give them time to let it out, okay? Because if we push it and it comes out, they may not be ready to do that, and we might not be ready to receive it, you know, so, but you're exactly right. Very good, very good, okay.
Let me give you an example of a true caller. I don't know if you ever talked to him about the Texas one. I think I was the first one he called. I think I got the first time. It was back the first of the year. And this is probably the worst call I've ever had, because I didn't know how to handle it. And I still did, you know, the last time I talked to him, I just constantly think about it.
Yeah.
He first started calling and said his parents had just died. That his sister has many issues. They don't get along. He never really got along with his parents. I think there was some bad blood with his father. He had finally gotten out of that dysfunctional situation, had been to college, he was educated, had been married. Something happened to the marriage. I never did quite figure that out. So now mom and dad are dead. He has the home and all of that situation, and lost his job because he was taking care of the parents.
Yeah.
Now, you know, here he is with an education and still can't get a job. And the last time he talked to me, he said, probably next week I won't have a home.
Wow.
And that man has just stays on my mind, and because I know I did not handle that call good. I mean, I know I didn't. And you know,
Well, if it's any consolation, he's been calling for years. His parents, back when they were, you know, sick, he's got a very long story. But yeah, it is.
I think it's
we
just
can't help
started.
it.
But-
We just started paying attention to him or something. I mean,
But
we've started talking about him every day.
although that can be consoling for her, but what I'm hearing, Sandy, is that that situation has haunted you ever since it happened, and I hear, you know, how hurtful that's been for you and traumatic, and I'm going to step out of mode here for a minute. I'm not trying to fix Sandy. What I'm going to say is I'm going to thank and appreciate Sandy for giving this example, because it's major. we do that. We're going to beat ourselves up if we feel we didn't do it right. And my mentor taught me, because I felt I had to have the perfect visit as a chaplain. Every time I went into a room or go to a code blue, I thought I had to have the perfect visit. What he taught me is that what you do, just being there, being present, is a profound gift to another human being.
Yeah.
Okay? And second, that's my phone. The second thing is what you learned from that situation will help you with the next situation. And it will grow and grow and grow.
You don't really know the impact that you're making. I can say for myself personally that since 1988, 89, when I first got into the room, through today, I mean about 5 years ago, there have been countless people who have tried to help, who couldn't and probably felt helpless at the fact that I would not listen or justify, rationalize. It just went badly for them. You know, they trying to help and I'm out 3 sheets to the wind, you know, and I'm not making any sense. And they weren't able to help me. And I'm sure that there was some feelings that they wanted to be able to help. But you know what? Today I can say that I can look back at all those people and every single one of them along the way, no matter whether they could be professional or not, I think of today that got me to where I am. So you think of it as if you're just one link in a chain that links together from one to the other, which is from bondage to freedom. You know what I mean? And you might be just one of those links in there.
Good analogy, Kevin.
This
Thank you.
particular gentleman, I think, just needs someone to